Y'all know what it is.
Hey there, and welcome back to Eggs. This week's special guest is brand experience superstar and taco aficionado, Scott Porter. Scott is the founder and owner of San Diablo Artisan Churros, co-founder of Circle HR, a tool that guides managers in creating connection-driven onboarding processes, and host of the podcast and video series Tacoincidence, Secrets of Breakthrough Brand Experience on the Search for the Perfect Taco. With a broad range of experience, having worked in everything from senior care to luxury air, one thing has remained consistent, and that is the energy Scott brings to building meaningful relationships. His enthusiasm is infectious, and we're thrilled to death to have him here today to talk about creating your best brand and customer experiences, engaging with your team through speaking and training, how to take your onboarding process to the next level, and so much more. Please join us in welcoming to the show, Scott Porter. Hey, Scott, how are you, man?
Great. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thrilled to reconnect with you. So your name has actually come up on the show a couple times in the sort of distant past. I met Scott a couple years ago. I was part of a startup incubator program kind of thing, accelerator program called Tangible. And Scott came and spoke to our group about brand experience. And not to blow too much smoke up his butt, but I think it was the standout performance of the series or of the program. And it was really impactful for us. His approach to brand experience and everything is just infectious. And anyway, so I've been meaning to get this scheduled for some time now, but I'm grateful that we finally made it happen.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm glad schedules aligned.
So
no joke.
Let's just get this out of the way real quick. Favorite taco by far? Where's it at? What kind?
Wow. Yeah, no, this is a question I get often. And I always have to ask, like, geographic area. Are you talking in the world? Like the best taco I've ever eaten in the world? Or
Let's do
street taco or fusion taco, restaurant taco.
Well, now you're getting really nitpicky.
This is my life, man.
Let's go with best taco in the US and best taco in Mexico.
Oh man, I'm gonna give you a top three of each. So, the reason why I ask geographic area is because oftentimes people are asking because they want to go and eat that taco. So, if you're asking me where is the best place to go, well, I'll typically ask you, well, where do you live, and do you want to go there, or are you willing to travel the distance to make it happen? So, I would say, and you're in Utah, is that correct?
I'm in Idaho.
Oh, you're in Idaho. Okay,
yeah.
Man. I have not had extensive taco experience in Idaho. I've been to the school bus taco place in Rexburg, but have not had extensive taco experience there. So,
and I mean, I know you're the taco expert, but I do have to say, if you're not eating Mexican food in Idaho, you're missing out. There's a really large Hispanic population there, and the Mexican food there is on point. I come from Pocatello, Idaho, but I've lived in Utah for 6 years now, and it took me like 3 years to find something on par down here. So,
wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I would say that was a road trips. Just saying.
That was the dark horse comment of the week, man. That's amazing. Apparently we need to go on a taco tour to Idaho, and you can
Absolutely.
show me all the spots. I would say, so several of my there's so many here in Utah. There's one that I spent a long time, about 10 years in the LA area. And so there are just some phenomenal tacos there. One of my favorites that I always have to get when I'm in LA is guisados. They have a chorizo or a quesadilla with chorizo. It's basically just a taco with a slab of charred cheese. And I just always have to get it when I'm there. Another one of my favorites in LA for carne asada is Tire Shop Taqueria, just south of downtown. In the United States, there's so many. Those are the top of mind right now for the U.S. In Mexico, I am wild about a couple of different tacos there. One is Orinoco, which is kind of an unusual taqueria Orinoco in Roma in Mexico City. Okay. Carne asada also with flour tortilla, norteño style, amazing. And my favorite, because of the quality and the flavor and the smokiness of the al pastor that they do, and the salsas and the fresh made tortillas and the crispy Gouda mix with, I think it's Oaxaca cheese, is El Califa. They do a costra that's out of this world. In Mexico City. So crispy cheese with the al pastor meat, pineapple. Oh man, take me there. I'm actually going in a couple of weeks. And so it's been a year since I've been to Mexico City. Last time I was there was about 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. And so had a couple of taco tours planned to Mexico City last year with executives, but for obvious reasons had to postpone them. And I'm looking to kickstart that again here fairly soon, but doing some exploratory taco eating and R&D.
That's awesome. Have you been to, in Los Angeles, have you been to a place called Sonora Town?
Sonora Town, of course. Yes. I mean, they're so delicious. I was just there actually probably 3 months ago. So. Oh,
were you really? Okay, well, good then. Yeah. So you can maybe relate to this. So it's funny. I took, so my friend lives in an apartment right across the street from Sonora Town, right? Oh, so you look dangerous. Out there and yeah, no joke. Well, and every day there is a line around the block, and this is like the hot spot, right?
Yeah.
And especially
ever since they were on Netflix, Taco Chronicles. Yeah.
Ever since that documentary dropped, it got real hot, and especially more near to the documentary's release date, it was just bonkers.
Yeah.
So I took my son down there. We were down there. It must have been the November before the crisis happened, and we were down there for like a designer conference, and we decided to go into downtown to go meet my friend for lunch. And we cruised down there. I've got my 13-year-old son at the time with me. And he's never been to Los Angeles, let alone downtown Los Angeles. And for anybody who hasn't been there in the last couple of years, I mean, it's Armageddon downtown right now. Like there are just, tents on top of tents and people everywhere. So we get down, we pick up my friend, we start walking to the corner where Sonora Town is. We weren't going there for lunch, but walking by it. And we got to the corner, and just out of nowhere, this homeless fellow wearing no clothes comes walking across like right in front of us. Stops, wait for the little, street crossing thing to come over. And he goes over and crosses over to where the line for Sonora Town is. And he starts going person by person, tapping them on the shoulder for money. But totally naked, he could have been a Calvin Klein model or something. I mean, he was shredded. But nonetheless, you were watching just one at a time as hundreds of people were getting just this shock of their life because this naked guy was asking them for money. So it was pretty fantastic.
Wow.
So downtown LA.
Yeah, man, that I've never had that experience in downtown LA, but I can see how that would happen.
Well, let's focus back towards business, and tacos are great, but let's hear about it.
There's a really amazing connection, but yeah, we'll get there, I'm sure.
You grew up in Canada, and then you went to BYU Business School. What was your first kind of, foray into the business world? What got you started?
So I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and probably inspired from my father, and he was a general contractor and started his own business a couple of different times. And when I lived in Canada, I remember, I think I was probably 9 or 10 years old. I started a neighborhood newspaper. And so I went around and interviewed my friends' parents. I interviewed my friends about their vacation or their job or like what they want to be when they grow up or whatever. And so I wrote these articles, and I remember, this is totally dating me, but I remember my office was underneath our staircase in our basement. And I had a typewriter that I convinced my parents to let me use. And I typed out these stories on one page, and then I photocopied them and sold them back to everyone for like 25 cents. And so that was really, that was kind of, and then I delivered papers and stuff when I was a little kid. And then ever since then, I've just been, the entrepreneurial bug. You can't shake it. And it's something that is really just in your blood, and something that you got to continue to feed the beast. And so, that was just the start of a super eclectic career path and professional journey.
Yeah, and eclectic is a great way to describe it. So when I look at your sort of history, and I've heard it told a couple different ways, but when we talk about the sorts of businesses and the sorts of industries and the things that you've been involved with over the course of your career, I mean, to say that they are totally disparate is like an understatement. And so, I mean, I think, you've probably united these things all under sort of brand experience, because it sort of is applicable to everything. But I wonder if you just sort of talk about this, really interesting or really eclectic, a chain of events that took you to sort of modern day.
Well, I almost feel like you just take a dartboard and just throw at it and kick it.
That's kind of what it seems like, right? Yeah, I know. Well, so I guess really kind of zooming out from, and to give a little bit of a context and kind of a current that has flowed, and really driven the career decisions that I've made. I've always felt like I've wanted to be involved in something that makes a difference in people's lives and makes the world a better place in some way. And over the course of time, and as things have developed for me, I've understood and I've gotten a lot more clarity, personal clarity, and a lot more intention and inspiration on what that actually looks like for me. And I'll get into that, but really that has been the driving force. I wanted to be a force for good in the world. And so how that's taken shape and how I've embraced the opportunities that I've either created or that have come to me, then that's been it has been a very, it's been a North Star for me that has guided the choices that I've made. So, after undergrad, I also did my undergrad at BYU. I was interested in, I graduated in public relations, and I actually took a job working for Owen Media for Paul Owen in Seattle. I was the first employee. He was breaking off on his own. And I remember my first day on the job, it was like, we're building this agency together, and literally you're building your desk on the first day on the job. So it was my IKEA desk. I still remember it was that kind of purpley blue IKEA desk. And I built it and then set up my computer, and we're like off to the races. And so that was, so I helped build that agency, worked with Paul, and then I ended up going back to business school after several years, and really used business school to explore and to foster and to nourish this idea of entrepreneurship and what I should do. Most of the track at BYU was all focused on a corporate development, on some sort of corporate job that, you get in this level, and then eventually you work your way up and up and up and into this corporate ladder. And that just was of no interest to me. For me, it kind of kills my soul. I mean, not everyone's the same. And so hats off to people that love that life. And I have so many friends and very amazing colleagues that I respect. It is just not for me. And so I learned that early on. And so I knew I needed to embrace different. I knew I needed to embrace a different path. So I did an internship in business school. I got my own internship working for a nonprofit in Guatemala over the summer, trying to help them build their ecotourism project. I did marketing research for them, and it was amazing. When business school was ending, a friend said, "Hey, are you going to this info session for this nursing home company?" And I'm like, I literally remember started laughing. I was like, "Wait, you're going to an info session for a nursing home company?" I'm like, "Okay, well, is there going to be pizza?" And so I went and was completely surprised by the entrepreneurial nature and the business rigor of this organization. And it was what really, and ultimately, I decided to join the Enzyme Group and was really attracted to and enthralled by this idea of, they basically out of the gates, it's like they train you to be an administrator of a nursing home, and they give you the keys, and this is you're in charge of all the P&L and all of the decisions, and you're essentially, it's your business, and they will help you be successful. But their business model was to turn distressed properties into successful, reputable businesses that are making a difference in people's lives. And I loved it. It was something totally unexpected, out of left field. Never in a million years thought I would work for a nursing home, let alone really enjoy it. When it was good, it was great. And when it was tough, it was really harrowing. And I had some amazing experiences with phenomenal leaders and growth and experiences that actually shaped the entire rest of my career and my life. That is where, because I remember the first facility that I took over with our team, it was a bankrupt facility in the Pasadena area, small building, and it was half occupied. And like no one knew about us. We had about 200 direct competitors within a 10-mile radius. And so we needed to do something to get the word out. And we didn't have any money to invest in like any robust marketing efforts. And so I started to think and study, and we'll get to what this then became the common thread among all my apparently disparate career experiences.
Tacos.
Well, tacos are always there. But it was actually, there is some interesting ties to tacos, because I found myself training with my team on like, hey, I just had this taco experience. What can we learn from this that applies to a nursing home? And I continued to use these like really simple interactions that I had that were all based around, more importantly than the amazing, insane taco that it was more about the human connection and how these taqueros and how these taquerias and how the person making the tacos, as well as the actual taco entire place and everything, the way that they're set up, how do they actually create these raving fans? How do they create word of mouth? What are they doing to connect with us on a human level? And so there's all sorts of like micro things that happen in an amazing taco experience. And I found myself sharing those as, you know, these are best practices. These are ways that we can, these are elements of amazing experience design that we can embrace in the nursing home business to really truly connect with people. Remembering names, looking people in the eye, smiling, remembering something about them so they come back and you feel like a VIP. Anticipating their needs, like getting that little canister of toothpicks right there, because they know you're going to get cilantro stuck in your teeth, you know? So like, how do you like that is a principle that could apply to a billion-dollar software business. That's a principle that could apply to a churro business, to a nursing home, to whatever. How do we anticipate people's needs and help them get their job to be done? And so anyway, so as I started working in the nursing home, I started sharing these experiences. And I also realized that if we don't have money to dedicate to like a marketing budget of any sort, what can we do to get the word out? And I started to study what other titans had done, you know, like Disney, Starbucks, Zappos, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom, Trader Joe's, all of these companies have done to create an experience that you and I end up talking about at our dinner tables, you know, voluntarily, or we're like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what just happened to me at Trader Joe's or whatever. And so I started to study what they did and pull all of these elements from the amazing practices that these companies have done to create an experience that changes people, that really truly connects with people in a meaningful level so that they are then talking about you. And that is the strongest and most effective form of referral. That's the strongest, most effective form of marketing, is that personal recommendation. And so that's what we did. I created a system and a framework, kind of a playbook for implementing both an amazing culture, as well as an amazing culture internally that then leads to your team creating an extraordinary, what I like to call a breakthrough brand experience that gets wild results. And so we did that. We did it at the first nursing home, and I thought, I'm going to try this system. And within a year, we went from bankruptcy to 4.5 million in revenue. We were 90% occupied. We were the facility of choice for people. We were able to recruit and retain top talent. This did not happen overnight. It took us about a year to get to that point, but it was all sorts of little things, like offering everyone a fresh bottle of water when they came into the facility, calling people by name, greeting people in the hallways, having the doctor's favorite chocolate bar there when they came to visit, making sure our floors shined. Like it was almost like a mirror. It was beautiful, like all these little things that made a difference. We would train our janitors and CNAs we would take them to lunch at the Ritz-Carlton in Pasadena, and then dissect our experience and then look at applying what we were experiencing as a customer there into our nursing home. And so there were lots of different things. And ultimately, we even got some doctors to send their parents to us as patients, as residents with us, which that will only happen if they truly trust you and trust the care. And so all of this together was, I thought, oh gosh, this system works. I need to do this again. So I went to another nursing home. We did it there successfully. It was a totally different scenario, 3 times as large, regulatory crisis, but we're able to get out of that and get back on track. Harrowing experience, but we did it. And then I applied that when I ran a home health agency in Orange County, and as well as when we launched the first all you can fly airline called all you can fly membership airline called Surf Air. And we launched that in Los Angeles as well. Totally different industry, but I was like, hey, you guys, I know exactly what we need to do to create an amazing experience that will skyrocket. Like the NPS, the Net Promoter Score for airlines at the time was 15 out of 100. And so abysmal. Like if you talk about industries that have horrible customer satisfaction, like those are the industries that I have chosen to be a part of. Because
you couldn't pick a worse one than airlines. As far as customer service goes, like that's kind of, let's pick the hardest one and go for that.
Totally. Well, nursing homes are probably right up there next to it too. It's, and my father's in a nursing home now. And so I actually know from the other end, the experience that you can have. And so it's, definitely needed.
Yeah, we just put my grandma in a nursing home as well. So I've been right down this path the last month. So it's definitely a hard process.
And it's funny, so we mentioned earlier that it seems so disparate, your career path, right? These different things that you're doing. And you used a word earlier, you said this, this apparently different. But when you really look at the things that make a great VIP airline experience, where you're dealing with high rollers and the people who can afford a membership airline experience, and then you're also looking at the people who are working in nursing homes, the TLC or the little things are the whole difference. If you can think of the worst hotel you've stayed at or the best hotel, the differences are those little things, right? There's a little placard with your name on your pillow, or there's something fresh that you can have, a drink in the room or something. And, but it's not, I think that for a lot of people, they think in order to have a brand experience that's great and meaningful, that you must come with something grandiose, that it has to be this big, amazing, Times Square experience or something. When in reality, just like if you remember my name, I'll be much more likely to come back.
Totally. There's actually statistics about that. It's like 71% of us are more likely to purchase when people remember our name, or they remember what we ordered before, or they genuinely give us a recommendation based on what they know about us. That's crazy.
That makes perfect sense, right?
And not only that, but like there's another report that customers will spend 140% more when they have a positive customer experience. So, I mean, whatever industry you're in, plug your numbers in there. Do you want to add 140% to those numbers? And so you tell me how important you think that would be to focus on creating an extraordinary brand experience and customer experience that connects in a meaningful way with people. And it's something that's not just like, it's something that I think a lot of people think that it has to be like you said, grandiose, or something that's very expensive, or something that you need to devote a lot of energy and really specific like design around. Sure, you can do that, absolutely. But what I have seen be the most successful in the companies that I've run and in the companies that I've consulted with is that they establish an amazing internal culture where they truly understand, every one of their team members understand, or they are, and they are very committed to and engaged in their mission and values. And so if they have this strong, solid foundation of, if everyone on the team understands your mission, values, what is expected of them, and what type of experience they're looking to create, then you are enabling all of your team members to wow people and surprise and delight at every moment. And oftentimes they are such little things that don't cost anything. Let me give you an example. Just two quick examples. So I run a gourmet churro business. So after the airline, natural like transition into gourmet churros, next, right? Yeah, obvious. And so our mission is to create the best food experience in the world. And we want to help people experience the joy of food. We call it deep fried happiness. And we want to just like give people, our vehicle for spreading joy and happiness is these fresh filled churros, right? And so we do catering at parties and weddings and things. And one of our team members, we got some feedback from a catering event that they did. And she said, hi, San Diablo, I'm so happy. The churros were amazing. Thank you so much. The event was awesome for my son's 13th birthday. And what was especially amazing is when Colin named one of the churros after my son in honor of his birthday. He called it this is the flavor mix that was Ryland's Delight. And so we've never told our team like, hey, whenever you're going to a special event for someone, name a churro after them, or create some creative flavor combo that would be awesome for those kids. And they were so excited about the fact that he had created this on the spot. And so I mean, tribute to, and we call them halos, but shout out and kudos to Colin for really bringing our mission and values to life in that moment. And one other quick example, we had, this was an email exchange. So this wasn't even in person. So the human connection can happen whether you're in chat, whether you're in text, whether, human connect, or whether you're face-to-face or whatever. So our events manager was following up with the wedding, and she said, hey, how's it going? Just want to check in. Are you still wanting the churros at your reception? And she said, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cancel my wedding. I'm no longer getting married, period. Response. So, I mean, think about how you would respond as an event manager. Would you respond?
Upsell them.
Okay. Or would you respond at all? Sometimes it's like, oh, the lead was lost. Yeah. So then we're done. But my events manager, Camille, she wrote back, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, oh, no problem at all. I'm so sorry to hear about your broken engagement. I also had a broken engagement, and I know it's not all roses. If you're ever in the area where our food truck is, or if you want to come and find us, please come and get 6 free churros. We do them in a 6-pack, 6 free churros, complimentary. And I hope things continue to go well for you. And she wrote back just one line. She's like, I will be a fan of San Diablo Churros for life. And it still gives me chills to like recount that experience, because I love that Camille cared about the human and cared about the other person on the other side of the line and connecting with them. Even though this was never face-to-face, they may not even recognize each other if they ran into each other at the grocery store, but they connected and she felt that we cared. And that is what this is all about to me, is that we need to create businesses that care more. If I know you're in Idaho, but there's a lot of billboards here, Ken Garff billboards, that all I know about Ken Garff is that they listen to me. I'm not in the market for a car very much, but all their billboards are, their key differentiator is that they hear you. And what is the thing that you hate about shopping for cars is that you're going to get it's this super sales push pitch. And instead they want to communicate that they hear you, that they're willing to listen. And that to me makes it enticing for me to go in there, even though I'm not in the market for a car, but I know that that is something that's so important to them. That's part of their mission and values, because that's what they that's what they're communicating. And that's what they want, that message they want to have come across.
Yeah. So interesting thing. So I used to work on Ken Garff campaigns actually, and we started the whole We Hear You thing. And at the point they moved that business to a different agency, and I had left the agency, so I'm not working on it anymore. But at the time, we were getting something like 98% unaided awareness from people who would learn about that campaign or whatever. Everybody knew exactly what you knew, right? Everybody just said exactly what you said, and they knew it without even having to say Ken Garff. They knew what it was. Yeah, and so that campaign worked extraordinarily well. And I think it illustrates the point you're trying to make about the it's that human connection. And I had a thought, just pop into my head while we were talking about this, how the things that are these little things, these little points of human connection, how valuable they can be versus anybody with money can get your name on the Jumbotron, right? I mean, like just going out and spending a bunch of cash and getting your name across the Goodyear blimp or whatever, it's cool. And maybe it makes for a great Instagram moment or whatever. But, if, just in the context of like NBA or something, if, one of the players or the owner of the Jazz, for example, here in Salt Lake, wrote you a nice little handwritten letter thanking you for being a fan or something, that would be every bit as valuable or more so than this thing. Like the loyalty you would have to the company. It's not this frivolous thing that you paid $500 and got my name on the Jumbotron. Rather, this person who is extremely important and took a lot of, took some time out of their day to actually recognize me as an individual. Like I will buy my season tickets going forward then. It's pretty interesting how just throwing money at the problem doesn't necessarily solve anything.
For sure. And not only that, but like if there is a problem, if they already know and you've built enough credit in that trust account with that person, whether they're your customer, your client, whoever, if there is a problem, they're like, oh, you know what? I know that they didn't mean to have that happen. And so I'm going to cut them some slack. Or they're even more willing, like we do. There's like some service recovery statistics as well. Like people are I think it's 4 or 5 times as likely to switch from a 1 to a 5-star on a review if they get a response and they feel like the response is actually like caring and not some canned response, but where they feel like they actually, those churros were really poorly made, they were overdone, whatever it was. I'm so sorry. That was our mistake, like falling on your sword. And people are that much more likely to switch their review from like a 1-star to a 5-star because they feel like you care. They feel like you're actually listening to them and not just like an object or something that's getting in the way of doing their job.
Yeah, I've actually gone through Google reviews in the past, just trying to find someone who, I need someone to do HVAC or whatever. As you're going through, like if you actually notice that the owner or someone at the company is replying to bad reviews, it helps even me as someone who's never worked with the company before, the fact that they actually reply and they leave a good positive, like, hey, we're sorry that happened. How can we help? Yada, yada, yada. That makes all the difference. And in other people coming and reading the reviews, even if they didn't switch it back to 5, the fact that they acknowledged it and took responsibility, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Well, then
it adds that trust thing.
Exactly. Exactly what you said, you're all of a sudden, those owners and those companies are building a trust account with you, even though you are not yet a customer. But, and even though they're just being real, because we all acknowledge that all of us make mistakes. And so as long as we can see that someone else is being real, we'll cut them some slack. And we're like, okay, yeah, maybe that review is being unreasonable, or maybe they did really do something wrong and they messed up, which we all do. And so you're like, okay, I'll give them a chance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's powerful. Great. I wondered if we could spend another minute on sort of, you brought up, or we've used the word several times, culture, this idea of culture.
Yeah.
And I think that this is one of those kind of slippery terms that people say meaning different things all the time. Yeah. But one of the things just from your story, and I think that this might be a good way to sort of, I guess, give an example of how this might work. So you've pointed out a number of these little things, right? These little, customer service, I don't want to call them tricks or hacks or whatever, but these human moments where your people are interacting with your customers, and they're going out and they're doing their best. But the reason they're doing their best is because they're empowered to do so. Correct. And I guess that's coming from the cultural aspect, that you've built within your organization. So I wondered if you wouldn't talk a little bit about just sort of installing a culture, for example, because, some of these things like, your customer service rep or your event planner who had responded to, or even the guy making the custom churro, like these guys were making those decisions because they felt comfortable doing them. They were human decisions. They didn't need to be written down in a guidebook or something.
Correct.
But because there was an understanding within the organization that you guys have the liberty to do these sorts of things, they did those things without thinking about it. So I wonder if you just talk about that sort of the installation of culture, or the, versus sort of a top down, it's in the manual, so this is how we do it approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the question, because this is what was keeping me up at night when I first started working in the nursing home, because we had a defined mission and values. And I think that that's where any strong, thriving culture starts, is with a very well-defined, intentional, meaningful, you don't have to belabor this process, but you do have to sit down. I know how it is when you're starting a business and you're pulled in so many different ways, but you have to stop for a minute and just define who you are and what are the values that are important to you? What are your decision-making filters? What are your guideposts? So it doesn't have to be super, we went through this in the tangible course as well, Ryan, but like just taking that time and defining who you are. Once you have that, then you, and we had that at this first nursing home. We had a mission, values, we framed them, put them on the wall. We say that we believe in them. And I was like, gosh, but what confidence level do I feel knowing that when I leave, or when some of our management leaves every day, that our team is actually putting all of this into practice every, and at 2 a.m. When they're going to change an IV or to help someone in the middle of the night, that it's not being hijacked with everything that we say we're doing and everything we put on the wall and frame. And so that's where what I did in that particular scenario was develop this whole system and framework of bringing everyone on board with your mission and values. And it starts with embedding that into all of your processes. It becomes your way, like the Disney way, the Starbucks way. It is the San Diablo way. It is the way that you do things. And it's not just something that you say once or that you ask new employees to read on your website. but you use that in the interview process. I remember when we were running the nursing home, when we're at San Diablo, we talk about the interaction, not transaction. We talk about, are you like, what's the difference there? I only want to have people on my team that actually are engaged in creating interactions and not just transfer of food for money. Anyone does that. And so I only want, so in embedding all of those missions and values into all of your processes, when we're deciding what type of equipment to use, does this help us create a great food experience? You know, are we enhancing the experience with this particular equipment, or is it going to make it more difficult? Or is it going to create something that's not a great experience? What about like everything from our branding to our social media messages? How are we, like, what hashtags are we using? So basically the culture and values inform decisions across the entire organization in every function of the business. How about how you interact with your vendors and other business partners, strategic partners? What about your landlord? You know, like all of those things are part of all of those people are experiencing touch points with your brand and business in so many different ways. So really taking a look at embedding that into the now you talked about as far as like the culture goes. So what this looks like for me is when we hire people, we're in the interview process, we're talking about our mission and values. When we were at the nursing home, we said, hey, we want you to call people by name and not number. It's one of my pet peeves when they say, you know, room 23B needs their diaper changed. That is a human, and we need to call them by their name, Mr. Jones, Mrs., you know, whatever. And so that is something that we held people to that. We created a system of rewards and recognitions. We created systems where we're continually reinforcing. So it's not just instilling that in the interview process, but then we spend like hours and days onboarding on our culture so that we're setting the expectation in all of our team members' minds about what type of experience we want them to create and what type of experience we are creating for them, how much we appreciate them, what are we doing to help them feel the importance that they are, because your team is your biggest asset. And so the more that you infuse energy, positivity, rewarding, recognizing, lifting up your team that are like using these experiences, like with Colin and Camille that I shared, as, you know, company legacy experiences like that. Hey, this is what you are able to do as a team member. Finding those people, continually reinforcing all of those principles through trainings, through nudges, through coaching moments as time goes on, and which is actually why we've started the Business Circle HR. That's exactly what it does. It helps to automate all of those nudges and create important human connections with your team, within your team, so that then they are empowered to develop, to bring your mission and values to life, and to create these amazing experiences that wow and surprise and delight. And so, I mean, I know that that's like a multi-tiered answer, but it really infusing it into the hearts and minds of your team through starting at the very moment that they have an interaction with you, through the rest of time, and as your business goes on, you know, continuing to reinforce that through rewards, recognitions, nudges, trainings, coaching.
Yeah. So one of the things I think is really interesting about you, and maybe this can lead into this topic, is, so, I mean, like we've talked about all these different career paths and stuff. I mean, basically every time you go into a new business, you're learning a new industry, right? You had to learn airline, you had to learn senior care, you had to learn churros. You know, I mean, basically you're going in, and what I love about that is it's an illustration in adaptivity, your ability to sort of adapt. Even if you bring to it this tool set of leadership skills, you know, you're still adapting and learning. one thing, and just because I happen to be maybe a little biased because I know you and I know your personality, all the things you're saying to me ring totally true, right? That this would be the way that you would approach leadership or the way that you would install culture. But what about those crusty old curmudgeons out there that don't have that sort of like attitude, right? And I know this is maybe part of the Circle HR story, but post-COVID and, sort of the everybody rushing to remote and coming back from remote and doing all these things, there's a tremendous opportunity to install new culture in business right now. And I wonder if you had any thoughts for the people who maybe don't have a sort of natural inclination to be I want to change the world in a positive way, but they need to pivot and maybe adapt and become, either a better leader or a leader with a different vision. Do you have any thoughts about how you change people that are already established?
I've spent my entire career thinking about this question, and I do have some thoughts here. I have worked with, I've worked for, I've worked alongside people that when I first implemented this in the nursing home business, my colleagues were like, okay, when are we going to start to see the results from all of your what some people would consider like fluffiness of being, human connection and all of these like mission things and culture. And when are we going to start to see the results? And I'm like, okay, you guys hang on. It's going to happen. Trust me. I know that this will work. And so and eventually it did. And then that's, why we were asked to go essentially rescue this other facility that was in crisis. And so I think the biggest thing is ultimately, I think there are people out there that just want to be in business to make money and for themselves. And there are those types of people. And I would love to have a conversation with those people to help them see and experience what it's like, because they know what it's like, but that is maybe not necessarily something that drives them a lot. And so there's once you feel the receiving end of that changing interaction of human connection, that can plant the seed to change you. One of the things that I like to do is share business results, like successes and statistics and research that has been done that, like, okay, the most hardened like finance dude will perk his eyes at like that 140% more spend. If you really are about making money, then that's something that like piques your interest, right? It's like, not only are you going to make a difference in people's lives and help people feel good about themselves and feel that you care, but you're also going to be wildly successful and you will have strong performance, business results. Revenues will go up, costs will go down. I mean, right now we're working with a client with Circle HR. They spend $6 million a year on turnover. $6 million on turnover, because their people are turning over so fast that they are having to spend all of that money getting new people, retraining new people, all that lost money on the training that they did for, people that are leaving within the first 90 days. So, I mean, it's like, look, can we help you reduce that? Like, even if we reduce that by half, like that's an amazing, imagine $3 million going back to your bottom line. So let's create something that people want to be a part of. Let's engage with them. Let's motivate, reward, recognize them for going above and beyond, or for even just bringing your mission and values to life, and helping them feel important, and that they are making a difference in their work that they're doing. And then we can reduce that. So I think there's like some compelling business cases and business results that can answer like you said, the most hardened business person, that may not, like, the change the world mantra may not be something that they can really get on board with. But But I believe that we can reach the most hardened business person because ultimately they're human too. And I mean, maybe there are some people out there without feeling anymore, but I think that we can soften that. I mean, you can soften that with real human connection. As long as people experience that for themselves. And that's why one of the things that I love to do is take people on. There's the two things I love to do where I see that transformation happen is on a taco tour in Mexico City, where we experience things outside of our world and we're outside of our comfort zone and outside of what we're used to. And we look at things in a different lens and we experience things as a customer. You're like, wow, that was really nice that they just did that for me. And it softens you, right? And then you like look and say, gosh, that was so kind. And then the other thing I've loved to do over the years too is international humanitarian service. And I've been a leader for Choice Humanitarian in expeditions in Guatemala, Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, Nepal, Kenya, and with Singular Humanitarian. And when you are out of not only your comfort zone, but when you're with people that are experiencing extreme poverty, and there's something about that experience that changes you and realizes that we are all humans together and we all have something to learn from each other and we all have something to give each other, regardless of our socioeconomic status. And so I think that though the more we can help everyone experience it on like firsthand, the power of that sort of connection, and then also support that and bolster that with serious and significant business results. That's how we'll reach them. And like, quite frankly, like conversations like this, the more that we have these conversations. And so I applaud both of you for being this platform to share and to open up hearts and minds to the power of human connection, to obviously like run a wildly successful business, of course, but to make a difference in people's lives and to, and I mean, that's how we're gonna change the world. You know, in my podcast, I have a podcast, Tacoincidence, where I take CEOs to tacos and we have conversations like this. And David Royce is the CEO or the founder of Aptive Environmental Pest Control Company. They have 500,000 customers. And so we were talking like, just for a second, it was like blowing my mind for a second. Imagine if all of his employees let's just say they have a daily touch point with those 500,000 customers. If every one of those daily touch points were a positive interaction, imagine that's 500,000 people that are that much more happy in that moment, that are, maybe it's just for a moment, you know, but when the rest of life comes and hits you, if your pest control company is kind to you, you know, the next interaction that you have when your spouse, like for whatever reason, gets upset with you, you're going to react differently. Or if you're pulling out of your parking spot and someone hits you, you're going to react very differently if you had just had a positive, uplifting interaction than if you were like ticked because they, you know, nickeled and dined you, or, you know, they were rude or whatever happened. So that is the power that we have as business leaders to influence the organizations that we have. And he can influence those 500,000 daily interactions with his customers if he creates a culture of appreciation where this team knows what is expected of them and they feel engaged in that whole process and they feel like they are part of something special. Because everyone, I mean, all the business results have been, you know, it all leads to people don't leave jobs because of money. Typically, they leave because of a poor leader, or they leave because of disengagement. They don't feel like they're appreciated. They will stay longer at jobs where they may be underpaid because they feel like they're part of something that is bigger than themselves. And so that's our obligation as business leaders, is to create that. And to make a difference. And so That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. Actually, there's a few. I have had similar experiences in my career as well. I remember there was this wedding. I work in the wedding industry as well. I provide music and stuff for weddings. And
I can tell. I see. I want to go to those weddings. The library of music that you have there is incredible.
Yeah. So I lived in the Philippines for a little while, and I learned how to speak Tagalog. And
awesome.
I did this wedding in Chelan, Washington, and the bride's family was Filipino. And one of the events that Filipino weddings typically do is a money dance. And most DJs hate doing it because it's a lot of getting on the mic, getting people to come up and dance with the bride and groom. And it's kind of like a pain for the MC. But when I found out that they were Filipino, I started talking to them in Tagalog, and they just lost their mind. It just changed everything. They had no clue this white boy could speak Tagalog. And I ended up getting 4 other weddings from just the fact that I could communicate with them and be real personal on their level. I got a thank you card saying, "Oh, that was amazing," and it's the little things like that you don't really realize make that big of a difference. But like you've mentioned, people talk when you do something positive and good and leave lasting memories. That's how you get a lot of your work.
For sure.
So
can I share one experience that reminds me of?
Sure.
So when we were interviewing pilots at Surf Air, our values were like safety, uncompromising simplicity, real community, and first class. And those were our company values. And so we would talk with all the pilots because we had only 8 first class seats on every plane. So all of our members were constantly developed friendships with the pilots, And so part of that was the mystique that we were creating too, that we wanted. And so this pilot, the type of pilot they were and their customer interactions were crucial to us. So I'll never forget, we asked Mike, he was one of our first pilots. We're like, tell us about a time when you went above and beyond to surprise and delight someone. So he told us this experience when he was flying charter. There were 3 women in the back of his aircraft, and he was flying, and he started to hear clicking in the back. And when he heard clicking, it meant he had this rule. He told us he had this rule. I think it was like 10 clicks or 5 clicks or maybe something like that. If he heard rapid clicking in the back, it meant that they couldn't find something, right? Like they were opening up the drawers, opening up the doors and trying to find something they couldn't find. So he leans back and he says, "Hey, ladies, is there something that I can get for you?" And they said, "We are dying for some chocolate. You guys have wine, you have like peanuts, you have all these other things. There's no chocolate." And he's like, "I'm so sorry. I'll see what I can do for you." And so they were getting close to landing. And so he radioed down to the concierge at the airport and said, "Hey, I have 3 ladies that are dying for chocolate. Can you please go to the nearest vending? We're going to be landing in like 10 minutes. Can you please go to the vending machine and buy me 3 of everything that has anything chocolate in it? And I will pay you back when you get there." And so he, sure enough, they land, they get off as they're deplaning, they get off and they say, and the concierge is there with this beautiful tray of all this like cheap grocery store chocolate. So it's like Hershey's and Kit Kat and Reese's peanut butter cups and everything. And these are like multimillionaire women that are deplaning. They lost their minds. They were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so amazing." I mean, they're probably used to like only purchasing single source cacao beans that were like fair trade from whatever. Like, they're probably used to really high end chocolate, but they lost their minds. They thought it was the nicest, most thoughtful thing that anyone could ever do. And because Mike told us this in the interview, he told us that because of that, action that maybe cost him $15, $20, those women were responsible for over $300,000 in jet memberships. after that experience.
That's crazy.
Because I mean, to your point about what you were saying with the DJ and like going above and beyond, surprising and delighting, making something happen that's personal and to show that you care about them, it works. It pays dividends. You will be rewarded.
Another thing, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but just another thing that I do for clients that I don't normally tell them I do this. I usually surprise them with it afterwards, but I record their ceremony. So the audio and usually there's a videographer there, and the videographer normally, like, unless they're top notch, they just have these little tiny mics that don't really sound good. And, I'm putting the whole thing through the sound system, might as well hit record on it, and then I'll master it and send them a copy of it. And multiple times that's done wonders for me.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, it shows that you care and that you're thinking about things that maybe they aren't thinking about. That's why they want someone like you there. And that's why they will continue to refer people to you, because man, he was so nice. That was so thoughtful. I wasn't expecting that. It shows that you care. And so, and to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, we are coming out of this pandemic, hopefully soon, and coming back to, we've been so shut off behind masks, behind like plastic guards at everywhere we go, and distancing. I mean, even all of the verbal cues of like staying away. I think that what this underscores for all of us is a need to increase, and those businesses that will continue to win are those that actually find ways. We are now living in a relationship economy. It is not a consumer-based economy anymore. It's relationship and experience-based. And the businesses that realize that and actually embrace that as a strategy will win. Those that don't will not be around anymore, because we are demanding that. We want that. More than ever, we need to know that people care about us and that we're not just a number. Because that's the world that we're living in, that was really underscored by all of the restrictions that have been placed on us with the pandemic.
No, I think that's right. Well, and also probably a good place to wrap this thing up. So Scott, as we wrap up, I mean, any parting shots, or would you like to tell our listeners where they can learn more about the work you're doing, how they might connect with you online, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been so awesome to spend time with you. Definitely the best source for everything that I've touched on in different moments, for like blog posts or the podcast and video series, for a taco tour if you want to go with me to Mexico City, or for anything else that I'm involved in, is searchfortheperfecttaco.com. I also have a taco finder map on there, so that can get back to the very first question that you asked me.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, then you can find some of the tacos that I've been to at places all over the world. But I need to get more spots in Idaho, apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm going to Cabo in a few weeks, so I'm going to have to jump on your map there and see if I can find some good food around there.
Well, I may need your help from Cabo. So my strength in Mexico is Mexico City and Tijuana.
Okay.
I have been to other places, but I actually have never been to Cabo San Lucas. So
I have a couple friends who are chefs, and since they sold their business and they took a year off, and they're living down there just about 45 minutes outside of Cabo. Wow. So it's going to be a food tour extravaganza. So I'll definitely let you know.
For a treat. Yeah. Let me know your recommendations. I'm for sure.
So
cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Scott. We'll send some people your way. This conversation's been awesome. I'm really grateful that we could make it work. And so thanks so much. And thanks to everybody who's listened to the show this week and every week. And we'll catch you all next time.